Be careful who you be having your one night stands with, because some of them might fall in love with you too quick and might want to keep you forever. Hi guys, welcome back. I just watched the movie Berlin Syndrome, and this movie is about Claire, who is vacationing in Berlin. She meets with Andy, who's an English teacher, and they hit it off right away. And then after one night of sexy time, she wakes up the next morning to find out that he's gone to work and she's kind of trapped inside of his apartment with no way out. This movie is pretty long and it almost hits, I think, the 2 hour mark, or if anything it goes over 2 hours, and it did feel kind of lengthy for me, but at the same time I understand because there's a whole lot of exposition for each of the characters, Claire and Andy, and in some way, you know, you can't really miss any of those details. Like, your full attention has to be in the movie because you might miss something. Now, the way that these two meet is a little bit sketchy already because of the way that they're meeting, like the middle of the street. Their flirting game is like not that great because it's kind of awkward as hell and it's kind of creepy at the same time. And there's a whole lot of signs about Andy himself where, you know, you could see like red flags left and right. So I don't know how Claire didn't take those. Like the way that he talks to her, the way that he like approached her, like the way that he's like touching her and stuff like that. There's like one scene where he was trying to translate a word for her and he puts his hand on her neck, and I was just like, oh, you might not want to go home with that guy. And also his apartment is just like at a weird ass location where nobody seems to live there, or it looks like it's not functioning at all. But aside from that creepy stuff, you know, Teresa Palmer, who plays Claire, really sells her performance, and I really enjoyed her in this movie. The way she had to play this character was very emotional and very physical because she has to play this character who kind of has to accept her fate. Well, she's being kidnapped by this guy. Like, you know, there's no way out. There's no way, you know, you can get help. But at the same time, there's like glimpses of light here and there where, you know, something could be done, but at the same time she's terrified, and it shows very well through her emotions and like the way she's portraying this character. We literally get to see her getting beaten down like emotionally and physically to the point where she's actually doing nice things for Andy, and it's freaking ridiculous, and it just made me cringe. And then on the other hand, Andy, who is played by Max, whose last name I'm not gonna say because I'm gonna butcher it, but I'll put it here, really sells his performance because I really thought that he did a great job in portraying this guy who's living two different lives. One which is, you know, outside of his apartment, living a totally normal life. He's an English teacher, you know, he's teaching a bunch of students, you know, English. And then he really cares for his father. You know, there's a lot of touching moments with his father. And then outside of that, you know, he's going to like these events that his colleagues are like having, and I'm just like, oh my god, like this guy is like a freaking psychopathic killer or something. And then when he's in the apartment, like, you know, he's treating Claire like a piece of shit, and he's like basically taking photos of her and all this stuff, and it's just freaking wild. In a way, even though the story was from an Australian going to Germany, you know, the kidnapper was a German or whatever, it reminded me of the story of Ariel Castro's that happened here in the US. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that story. It's a real story, and it's basically about, you know, Ariel Castro kidnapping not one, but 3 girls, and actually one of those girls had his baby, and it's pretty crazy. So if you guys haven't heard that story, then I would suggest looking it up because it's pretty messed up and very interesting at the same time because of the events that happened at the very end. What I really liked about this movie was that we got to see both sides of the story, you know, both the victim and the attacker. You know, it kept it very interesting, and the suspense was there, and the whole build up to some of the moments were really good. And also they take the whole Stockholm syndrome and replace it with Berlin, which is kind of messed up because now you got to look at Berlin, you're like, oh my god, why they put Berlin with Stockholm syndrome? So just think of Berlin as a nice place, but at the same time they kind of go to the effect of making us realize that, you know, when you travel alone, it's not all fun and games. You know, sometimes you have to come to the realization that, you know, shit does happen. So be safe when you travel alone, guys. You would think that for a movie that's very long and also relies a lot on the character development that they would go back to flashbacks, but they actually don't. And I really like that because everything that you're experiencing with these characters is shown through their emotions and their performances in the movie. Like, you know, there is time going by, you know, it's winter at one point, and then, you know, obviously leaves come down and whatnot, but you can see how much time has progressed because of the way they're portraying each other in the film. And I thought that was a great way of developing the characters themselves, because there are some times where they use flashbacks and sometimes at the same time they're not effective. I remember the movie Split, they used a lot of flashbacks and some of them weren't even necessary to develop the characters. Many aspects of the movie itself felt very real to me because of the way I've read other stories with similar backgrounds. There's a whole lot of stuff to pick from this movie that, you know, you can say, oh my god, that actually happened in real life. Or like, you know, I said like the Castro kidnappings or whatever, whatever. That was very real and in a way similar to this story. The ending itself I feel was like very satisfying for me because there's a whole lot going on, and in the end it kind of left me wondering, you know, what's gonna come next for these characters, or you know, what happened. It is a slow burn and it does get very real. Sometimes the way that this claustrophobic atmosphere gets a little bit carried away from me, but at the same time it is effective. A lot of the aspects themselves I thought they were very believable, especially since a lot of stories have happened revolving like Stockholm syndrome, and I feel like they nailed that whole definition in this movie. But overall the performances themselves was what gave this movie such a great praise for me, and I'm gonna give Berlin Syndrome a 4 out of 5. Make sure you guys check this one out. It was on Amazon and I really liked it, so if you guys like movies that are thrillers or suspenseful dramas, then make sure to check this one out. It is a little bit long, so you need your full attention on this one to get everything and all the details that you need for these two characters. So if you guys have seen it, please let me know what you guys thought about it in the comments down below. Also, what are some good suspenseful dramas that you have seen lately, or any good thrillers? Leave those also in the comments down below. But if you guys are new to my channel, please subscribe and hit the bell so you can get notifications of my next uploads. If you like this review, please share it and give it a thumbs up. But as always guys, stay tuned.